Yo people, welcome back to another review. This time it's Superman 2025 and we've seen how well it's been doing at the box office. However, in my opinion, as much as I'm happy for it to do well at the box office and it's helping DC financially and just looks wise, I don't think it was deserved. This film is meant to be a kickstart to the James Gunn DC universe. This is meant to be the Iron Man 1 for DC, and I'm going to be comparing the two movies briefly, and then I'm going to be talking about my actual review for Superman 2025, what went well, what went wrong, and what's next for DC. As always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, as well as what other content you'd like to see me do. I'd appreciate if you could leave a like on the video and sub to the channel. Let's get started. So in terms of the MCU and Iron Man 1, the reason everything started building up nicely was because of the story that they actually put in the film and how they dealt with the time they had. In Iron Man, we saw the origin story of Iron Man, what he does, who he is. It really focused on him, showing him off. He defeats the villain and it does good world building. And then in the end credits, we get Nick Fury arriving to recruit Iron Man, pitch him the whole Avengers thing, which obviously hinted towards the Avengers movie. All of this is how to kickstart a movie franchise or a movie universe perfectly. You're giving the audience information and backstory about the hero they're gonna try to get invested in. Show us what he can do, show us his flaws, his characteristics, how he wins, and what's next for him, but all in a very slow and effective way where it all builds up nicely. Now let's compare that to Superman. In my opinion, something that messed them up from the beginning was saying that this film was basically 3 years into Superman's superhero duties. I think for me, it should have been in his very first year and give us the origin and everything that I mentioned that worked with Iron Man. Yes, people will say, oh, but it's boring. Oh, we've already seen it. But this is a new version of the superhero. And if these people use their brain cells, aka James Gunn and anyone else working on this film, then you can find ways to make it work, make it different, make it effective. And then I think it would have been better. One of the problems I had with Superman is that he got laid out a few times. Even in the very first scene, he didn't really feel powerful. I know people will then counteract by saying, oh yeah, but if he's too powerful, it's not realistic and it's just too OP. I get that. But Iron Man wasn't getting laid out this many times, for example, in his first movie. Krypto the dog literally saved Superman about 2 times in the movie, I want to say, which made Superman feel weak because it's his first movie. And it wasn't like novice mistakes or anything. He was actually about to die or potentially just lose the whole fight. And then Krypto came in and clutched up. As of right now, for example, I don't see Superman being able to be the leader of the Justice League outright the way that he is usually presented. I get that this is probably a younger version, but I still don't see it. It kind of gave me that gimmicky presence that we see in the Thunderbolts, which is a problem because Superman is a top tier hero and should only associate with other top tier characters. The problem with this Superman feels that he's too accessible. He feels like he can just interact with anyone, and without having that prestige, it really lessens his character. It makes him feel less powerful, and in the eventual Justice League, in general, it just won't feel as powerful as he should. I get that they're doing the whole maturing and he's gaining experience and all of that stuff, but it started off way too weak. Another reason I don't like the 3-year jump thing is because a lot of the plot just brought out so many questions which they should have filled out, but they didn't. One, for example, is how did Lex Luthor manage to clone Superman? How long did it take? What did he use? How did it happen? How did he get the DNA that he needed, for example? How long has their rivalry been going on for? How many times has Superman stopped his other plans, for example? Just in general, how did it all come about? In this version, we basically get that they have a whole baggage of history, and even the dynamics that they have, I don't really like it because it should be Superman chasing Lex Luthor, trying to stop all his plans, knowing that he's up to something and trying to stop it. But in this one, it felt more like Lex Luthor was the one on the attack. He was the one being proactive. He's the one trying to get Superman, when it should be the other way around. It should be Superman trying to be proactive and not reactive. Even that whole boxed universe thing, I forget the actual name of it, but how did all of that come about? Why did he decide to do this? Even the way they just found Superman's base and raided it. Obviously for us, it seemed very quick, but we assume it took a lot of time to find his base. So it would have been nice to see how these things happened. How does it all align? How does it all play out? Which brings me to yet another reason why I didn't like the 3-year jump thing, and it was the Justice Gang. Having Superman have these people in his movie makes it feel more like it's an MCU Spider-Man movie rather than an Iron Man 1 universe opening film. Again, because of the 3-year jump, we don't know how they met, when they met, why do they work together when the chemistry doesn't even look like it works. It looks drier than the desert. I really didn't like the Green Lantern. Hawkgirl was okay, she didn't really offer much personality, and Mr. Terrific was the standout guy, but it's only because he got more screen time. In my opinion, I think one of these characters will die before we get the actual Justice League being formed, which I look forward to, but I think there's just way too many characters in one film, which kind of kills the hype for when we actually see the Justice League form, because we've seen team-ups from the very beginning of this new universe, so how do you make it more special? Now, in general, there was one thing I didn't like, and I think they wasted this storyline, which it actually could have been better in another film, and it was the Superman clone. I really think that they should have used this in a more serious way at a later time in the story. It felt like it was only added as a shock factor type of reason, but overall it was just jammed in with the other stories, which was annoying because this cloning story alone had so much potential. That cloning could have been a whole plot for a whole different movie, and they've just wasted it because they crammed it into this film. There was just so much substance and storytelling in connection to the civilians, social media, Lex Luthor, and most importantly Superman, if they'd have done this cloning thing but more fleshed out. Especially while Superman is doing this whole storyline where he's trying to see why does he belong on Earth, why should he go against his parents' messaging of conquer Earth, but he doesn't want to conquer Earth, he wants to help the people of Earth, all that stuff. The cloning thing would have been a lot better. He is the protector of the people, but what happens when you get a clone and people can't differentiate between the two Supermen? I think that would have been a far better approach if you had the two clones, they're fighting it out, people don't know who's who, and Superman has to prove himself why he is him, basically, and why he is the real protector, instead of getting frauded out by the clone who's probably... Now, let's talk about some of the things that I did like. There wasn't many because a lot of it is potential based, but for example, I think the tone was cool. I can appreciate that they tried to do it in a more comic book style in terms of brighter colors and a more humanized version of Superman, which is something that I've always wanted to see because personally, I've never been a fan of Superman. I've never connected to that OP character that we know, and he's very robotic and perfect. I've never really connected to that. So him being humanized and taking a few more L's is something that I wanted to see in this film, and we did get to see it. However, they did it to the other extreme. I do like the acting as well. The actor did a good job with what he had. I believe his Clark Kent performances were really good as well. He really looks like a Clark Kent, so he pulled that off well, no issues there. I liked seeing the whole Superman going back to his Earth parents and just having the speech with the dad and just seeing the mom and seeing that. I know it feels kind of like a checkbox type of thing that they have to do in a Superman film, but I do like that. Again, the Lois Lane connection, the chemistry, it was good, but with the common theme of this whole film, which I've mentioned, there was a lot of stories and themes that they showed or they hinted that had potential, but they barely explored it. And instead, they gave us a storyline about trapping people in dimensions which didn't even let us explore more Superman, more Clark Kent. Especially the time we lost, for example, with the whole Lois Lane and Mr. Terrific stuff. I think those scenes, they were good, they were alright, but I think we could have spent more time with Superman, the way Iron Man focused on Iron Man so much. So overall, I just think that there was a lot going on in general, and it took away from our main character, and we're supposed to be rooting for this guy, we're supposed to be knowing a lot about this character going into this opening of the DC universe. As for the cameos, it was cool to see Peacemaker. His cameo made sense. I would have had that be the only cameo of the whole movie because it ties to the upcoming series that he has, which is coming out I think later on this year. The Supergirl cameo, I would have had that as an end credit, and the second end credit I would have had is just Superman interacting with the Justice Gang, maybe for the first time ever. If I would have written this movie, I just wouldn't have had the Justice Gang overall, and then this would have been the first time he meets them in the end credit, which kind of does that Marvel connecting. But yeah, to conclude, I'm glad people are liking it and the box office numbers are doing well. I think the actor for Superman did a good job with what he had. Hopefully he gets a better script in the next film. I can understand what they tried to do. I can appreciate they tried to do a different route, or they tried to make it more comic book-ish. But I think for Superman, it should have been a different tone for now. For the first one, it should have been a bit more dark. And then we see him do something which kind of raises the tone heading into the DC universe and the creation. But yeah, as always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know why. And let me know any other opinions that you may have, what content you want to see going forwards on this channel. I'd appreciate if you could leave a like on the video, sub to the channel, and thank you for your time.